One day, this nation will rise up and live out the true meaning of its creed. We hold these truths to be self-evident, that all men are created equal. We'll be able to join hands and sing in the words of the old Negro spiritual. Free at last, free at last. Thank God Almighty, we are free at last.
Case we need to go back to 1987, and you know, back at that time I was still in high school, and I had chances to go over to my uncle's house, him and his friends, and what they would do is play this music that they would get from cities like Chicago and Detroit. It just had a different sound than your standard rhythm and blues and funk and hip-hop that I was accustomed to. So after listening to it quite a bit, I mean, it was just something about it that really struck me. And in that case, I knew from that point on, this is something that, at a minimum, I wanted to listen to on a regular basis, but also in the future, have an opportunity to actually make music.
For me, it was a bit different. I guess around about 1995, I was listening to techno to begin with, some deeper techno sounds, B12, Black Dog. I came in from a kind of intelligent techno sound. I was buying the CDs, and I used to live back in Australia, and there was a record shop there where I kind of went in there every now and then, started buying records. There was a big scene surrounding the record store as far as house music. We had a lounge there as well called Greenwich Lounge, whereas I got my first gig down there, played a bit of house music as well as the techno sounds, and it kind of took off from there. And one man's mainly responsible for it. I would say people like Ben Stinger, who owned that shop in Western Australia. Yeah, he was a big influence. He had a radio show that I listened to every week. You know, seeing what releases were out, he'd play them, and I'd call him up and say, can I come to the shop and pick up one of them? And yeah, it came from that.
Yeah, in many ways, I think a lot of us have a connection to the physical medium itself. It's arguable that the sound is much better when you play with vinyl. I'm one of those that actually agrees with that. But even beyond that, I think there's just something about being able to hold the music physically in your hand and to go through that process of playing the music. You know, it's something that you really can't explain from the standpoint of just the sound itself. It just goes beyond that. So a lot of us consider ourselves stewards of the music and stewards of the medium, and in many ways it provides us with not only enrichment, but at the end of the day, there's still a lot of artists that are taking the time to make great music and present it in this form.
Yeah, I think the tactile and physical format for me is much preferred over CD or digital. I mean, I go to a club and I talk to Darand at the club and I say, look at those guys playing the CDs, isn't that kind of toyish? It looks like toys, right? It's not really real. But with the vinyl also, from a collector's point of view, you know, you can collect it. It's like collecting anything. You build a collection, you love it, you know?
Absolutely.
And it is argued, and perhaps the sound is better, perhaps it isn't, but it's different, right? It's a different sound. Yeah. Interesting, interesting. Well, I've heard a couple of records from South Africa here. One was by Fred, Roots Go Deep. Awesome little release. There was also another one which was a Zulu folk type music, and I really appreciate that. Like, I came here looking for that sort of music, you know? Definitely something with African influences. You guys have got to have your own identity, I think, and that's a big difference compared to what we have back home, I think.
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, we're influenced by Chicago, New York, Detroit. So we're in that little Great Lakes region where it's a little hotbed of music for as far as house, techno, electro, anything, you name it, right? Yeah.
Yeah, I think those are great points, you know, with respect to what we've heard in the last couple of days here. At a minimum, it's promising to the point where we've even heard tracks that are clearly on the level or beyond what we're typically hearing out there from other countries. So I think the future is bright, and I think a lot of it, from my perspective, hinges on, can you guys put the proper processes in place to make sure that the music is distributed so it's accessible for folks like us.
Even locally for you guys, as you said, vinyl is pretty difficult to come by here, so maybe having a physical shop, where you can base a little community around, people come together around it, something like that, I think it would help, definitely.
I wouldn't necessarily say there's things that I hate about the music and the industry itself. I think there's always challenges, and what we've seen, based on the number of years that I've been involved, is an evolution to where today you have many more artists being able to produce music and to present that music, and either via downloads or even based on vinyl distribution. I think that's a good thing. Yes, you're gonna get some subpar, but that's just the music industry in general, whether we're talking about pop, house, hip hop, or whatever the genre is. So in that respect, I'm glad that there's more music out there. The more the merrier. There's always the case of, again, being part of the industry where not everyone has the proper motivations. I think those are some of the things that we all have to deal with. Some people are about fame and fortune, and, they're not true to the music. But I think with all that said, that's what makes the world go round, and I've always had a great time being a part of the industry in the process.
Yeah. I think what kind of concerns me sometimes is the copycat attitudes of people towards music. They'll either listen to a mix or they'll find out what music is hot at the time, and they'll copy that instead of expressing themselves artistically and doing their own thing, So I find that's kind of a shame, but it is part of the industry and we can't really avoid that. And that kind of comes into play with people doing it for the money, because they want to get on the train and produce the hot stuff that everyone loves right now instead of doing their own thing. That is one thing that, you can wade past that and you can still discover good music though, which is good. So, I'm Mike Bishop from Toronto, Canada, and you are watching House Expressions.
Darand Land, Buffalo, New York, USA. Urban imagery, deep for life, and you are watching House Expressions.